It was a pretty typical launch. We took 2 waves over the bow to start the morning out. The fishing forecast was right on the money. I was catching bass by 6, and at about 9 o'clock, it just turned right off. I was able to scratch out a couple more on the way in, but they were small, and it was a lot of work for those fish. When I'm retrieving a lure, and I get bit, and the fish misses it, just grabs the tail, I go ahead and put my reel in free spool and let it fall back down, because many times it appears that it's been crippled, and then the strike will come after that. I started out throwing dark colored swim blades early in the morning when it was real dark out, and then I lightened up. This fish here that I just hooked and I'm fighting, I caught that one on a Christmas tree, 5.5 inch, 3/4 inch lead head, weedless lead head. As you can see, I'm casting right along parallel to a kelp stringer. I caught this fish in an alley between 2 kelp stringers. The stringers were laid down and I was casting upstream, bringing the lure downstream so that they were facing towards it. Except for when I'm casting on the boiler rocks, I catch very few fish just randomly casting. There's always a reason and a place behind everything. And this fish right here, I had seen a seagull come down and pick up a tuna crab. So I worked my way in that direction. There were a couple more sitting there. Today for fin bait, I was using fingerling, Spanish mackerel, and top smelt. You never know what you're going to make when you start out. That's just what was biting. And so I went ahead and I put that on a dropper loop. I would drop that down to the bottom. I was fishing in 50 feet of water at this point. Go ahead and let that soak while I work the swim baits. Normally I'm trying to get a lingcod or even a halibut, but the bass were just so aggressive today that they barely even let them get to the bottom. You have to be a bit of a juggler to manage the paddle, swim bait rod, and then the dead stick, because they're all important and they all have to be at arm's length. But that's the best way to catch the most fish. I like to use a rod with a real soft tip when I'm working it this way. I like to put it in clicker so that I can put it in free spool. Can't always manage it that way, but when you can, it produces pretty good. These fish, because I was on the edge of the kelp line, I was able to go ahead and work them out real well. In this shot, you can see that the water has cleared up quite a bit. It's still pretty green, but it's nothing like the red tide that we had last week. This was my biggest fish of the session. It measured out on the measuring tape that I have on my paddle to be 18 inches. Real nice fish, and I was real happy to let that one go back again, as they're getting ready to spawn up right now, and this will be a good producer. When I'm drifting over kelp, what are like trees that grow in the water, when I get up in the tops, I will go ahead and wrap my feet in them, and that'll anchor me there, and then I'll fish down through them. Something like a hawk would, if it was sitting up in the top of a tree and it was looking down for prey that's in the field below. There are a lot of similarities there, and it makes me feel like I'm hunting as much as I am fishing. Using a rod with a soft tip and braided line to about 6 foot of fluorocarbon, I'm able to watch my my rod tip and tell exactly what the fin bait is doing, and watch as it begins to struggle harder as the fish is just about ready to pick it up. Plus there's a softness there. It gives me the time to go ahead and get the rod out of in my hand and go ahead and get the clicker off and swing on it, reel down first, so that I make a real good hook set. or not. Tackle management in a kayak is important. I find that just like I said with the paddle and my two rods, I need it right there at arm's length so that I can juggle all three of them. I keep my all the different things, the hard baits or the swim baits, the hooks, the anchors, I keep them all in different packages. It makes it easy for me to go ahead and take out and use what I need real quick. That's a nice. As I mentioned earlier, I'm using real small fin bait so that while it kicks real hard when it's butt hooked the way it is, it can't really swim off with the 3-ounce weight that I'm using at the bottom of my dropper loop. And this allows me to put the reel in clicker and in free spool. And I think especially with live bait like that, fish need a little bit of a chance to suck it down a little bit more, and it gives me a chance to go ahead and get the rod out from between my legs and get ready to go ahead and reel down on and strike the fish. Calico. We're going to end taking one more look at the big fish for the session. That would be the 18-incher. And this is John Pavlak saying goodbye.